Disclaimer, Knicks fans aren't going to like this one. Because there's a lot of apartments in New York City, and guess what? The landlord's back for his money, people. What is it with Trae Young and the New York Knicks, okay? The man has been living rent-free in NYC since that 2021 playoff series, and he proved it once again as the Hawks down the Knicks in the NBA Cup semifinals.
I rolled an 8, and then I picked it up, and then I rolled it again. So I picked up the money after that, and then we left. So that's what I rolled. I played that one with my little brother a few days ago. We had talked about that, and I knew what I was going to do. We're going to Vegas, so that's what I had to do.
I like that. Some thought goes in there. I hope Shaq is talking.
That's right. You know I got you, my boy.
That's what he's thinking after that game, after the advance to Vegas.
So how did this rivalry start, and how has Trae continued his governorship over New York State this season? We'll break that down in the game film. And for all the Trae haters out there, I'm going to get real about this performance. If it's just another flash in the pan before Atlanta goes back to living in mediocrity, like that play on words I did there, or is Trae finally about to lead the Hawks back to being legit contenders in the Eastern Conference? All that's coming up on Topic Tackle. Well, before we get into how this rivalry began and break down the game film, here's a point that the Trae Young haters, you might actually get behind. Trae is 7-14 against the Knicks in his career. Let that sink in for a second. So how does a guy who's 7-14 in his career against the team get to be called the owner of that team? Well, because when you average 25.4 points and 9.6 assists against that team for your career, and more importantly, have a gentleman's sweep under your belt of that team in the opening round of the 2021 playoffs where you posted 29.2 points and 9.8 assists a night, you get to hold that title. But more than records and stats can show and say, the Trae Young versus New York Knicks rivalry comes down to the eye test in signature moments throughout. And just think about this list of greatest performances by opponents in the Garden. Which names come to mind? How about Michael Jordan? From the dunk on Patrick Ewing, that's absolutely nasty, to the double nickel in 1995, yes sir, the man has had more than a few big-time games in MSG. Reggie Miller, this photo says it all. Blame Spike Lee. Kobe Bryant set the record for most points scored by an opponent with 61 in 2009, and blame Spike Lee and the trash talk from him for the eruption. James Harden, the man tied Kobe's record for most points scored by an opponent when he dropped an insane 61 unassisted points. Yes, every single one of his points were unassisted back when he did that in a game in 2019. And Trae Young for not one,
not two, not three,
but 4 memorable performances in the Garden that straight up pierced the hearts of Knicks fans. Look, when you chant this phrase at your opponent's best player, just know that you're asking for it. In Game 1 of the 2021 East opening round of the playoffs, Trae responded to these chants with 32 points, 10 assists, and 7 boards, including the game-winning floater with 0.9 seconds left to ice the game. Young's response?
Trae Young with a miraculous shot!
Yeah. Knicks fans were unfazed, though, as they came back in Game 2 and chanted this at Trae. And while the Hawks took the L in this one, it was at this moment that Trae knew it would be their only L of the series. After running off 2 straight W's down in Atlanta, the Hawks returned to MSG for Game 5, and well, I bet you can guess what Young did next. 36 points, 9 assists, a final dagger, and this. Yeah, Trae owned the Knicks in late May to early June of 2021. But what has he done to the Knicks fans lately? Why all the animosity still? What are those 3rd and 4th performances from Young in the Garden that I referenced earlier? Well, after the 2021 opening round playoff loss, the Knicks got their revenge on the Hawks 3 times in a row the following season. Only problem was, 2 of those 3 games were in Atlanta, and Trae was out for the Christmas Day game that they played in New York. So when it finally came time for Young to suit up again in the Garden for the first time since taking a bow to send the Knicks home in the 2021 playoffs, he'd kick it up a notch. March 22nd, 2022. Trae is back in New York, and the Knicks fans are letting him hear it.
After a second baseball pass, Young! Unbelievable!
That is a heck of a play. How about the recognition by Bogdanovich and Trae Young with great timing on that finish.
With a masterful full court length pass.
Honestly, I thought the boos would be louder. And so did Trae, apparently. Because the man, he went off to drop 45 points and 8 assists on their heads, including some late-game heroics to bring the Hawks back. And with the 6-point lead with a little over a minute remaining, he'd pretty much rub it in with this move.
Here's Young, sizes up Gibson, around him, shoots, and hits. Trae Young taking the Knicks' heart yet again. Further.
Taj Gibson's going to be on a lot of social media memes tonight after that one. And
that's cold. Since this moment, Trae has faced the Knicks 8 more times and has gone an even 4-4. The Hawks in a 500 record. Yup, I've heard that one before. But anyway, remember how I said earlier that a win-loss record and stats can't tell this whole story? Nah, because Trae owns the biggest moments in this rivalry, and honestly, history will remember those more than anything. Heck, maybe people will even come back to this video to remember them. And I think they'd be making a wise choice to do so. And if you're one of those people that happen to be watching, keep making smart choices like leaving a like, subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments down below if you think we should start calling Trae Young the governor of New York at this point. I appreciate y'all. And as we look at the two matchups between the Hawks and Knicks this season, Trae once again had smoke with Knicks fans who came all the way to Atlanta just to witness #1 overall pick Zachary Richardson drop a career-high 33 points, and Young dropped 23 points and 10 assists in the Hawks' 121-116 win on November 6th. But this one is going to be remembered less for what went down on the court and more for the message Trae had for the Knicks fans post-game.
I hope these New York fans find their way to the exit real quick. Boo! Take out.
And that brings us to December 11th, 2024 in MSG, a game in which the Hawks had to mount a second-half comeback in order to advance to Vegas for the NBA Cup semifinals, and a game in which Trae Young would leave his mark in the Garden once again. Let's break down his performance. Okay, so what you're going to notice here is the threat of the lob pass and how Trae creates that threat with these early floaters. Hawks were down 6-0 early. Trae cuts into the lane for an easy floater. Now double screen action goes around. Bridges is a bit lost. Look at that side step, Euro step layup. That's tough to do without traveling right there. Trae is really good at keeping the ball in one hand and finishing on that layup. You're going to see it with the pass later on as well. Back to the floater first, though. He's able to penetrate around the defense, get to that floater, and bank it in. Here's that one-hand action I was talking about. One-hand, full-court pass, defense caught sleeping, and an easy dunk. That's something Trae does really well. Now come off the screen here, into the lane, kick out, three-pointer, bucket. And then Trae, using the screen, going around it, fake, be patient with the action, cut, jam. Now that's a good offensive sequence right there, if you ask me. Jalen Brunson drives in here now, blocked. Johnson's going to pick it up to Young. Give it up, give it back. That's what the young people, hey, y'all out there, learn this principle. Give it up, give it back, especially when you're giving to Trae Young. He's leading the NBA in double-doubles right now. He's a machine with the points and assists. Give it up, chances are you'll get it back. Jalen Johnson knows that. Okay, missed three. This is going to lead to another transition opportunity. Trae, little hesitation, and look at that. They wanted to travel, but guess what? It's not, people. It's not a travel. It's just a smart move. Now Trae, drive around the defense into the lane, floater, but then on the pick and roll, the threat of the lob is there, and I'm telling you it's coming. I've been previewing it, but not quite yet. Another high screen by Capella. Now Bridges didn't go under the screen. He tried to fight over, but Capella, the way he was rolling, kept him out of the picture. That got Trae to a three. Now, next possession, that former three, it warmed Trae up. Now this one, he's pointing down where he shot it, I should say, on the court. Look at that right there. That's confidence, but this is the type of stuff, this is the type of moments that he consistently has in the Garden to point at the spot on the floor where you hit it from. That is confidence right there. Okay, later on now, we're winding down. Look at that backdoor Trae is drawing so much attention with that high screen and roll that Hunter is able to cut back door for the jam. And that's just brilliant. It's just a brilliant play. All right? And Trae's loving it. Skipping his way to Vegas and rolling the dice, too. We'll see that again coming up. And then how about one more play for good measure? This is the lob because Towns is just thinking he's going to shoot a floater. So this is what we notice. Great game by the Hawks in this one. Couple things. First off, you can miss me with the Trae Young went 8 for 22 in the field in this game. He wasn't efficient. It wasn't that great of a game argument. You know, hey, if we want to talk about that, but we look at Jalen Brunson's 5 for 15 night, okay? What matters is the W. And you know what? Atlanta has been getting a lot of them lately. The Hawks have beaten the Cavs not once but twice this season, including wins over the Celtics in cup play in Boston without Trae, and now the Knicks twice. And finally, I just want to acknowledge this. You know, Trae Young gets a lot of flack for not quite being the next Steph Curry, for Atlanta being perpetually mid, and maybe because people believe that he thinks that he's better than he actually is. But you know what? I really don't want to hear it today, because with these performances, he reminds me that he's been a legit star at every level he's played at and thrives on the big stage. The man is a double-double machine, and if Atlanta stays healthy and chooses to build around this squad, which has a lot of weapons, especially on the wings, I believe they can become a legit threat in the East for years to come. And if all else fails, at least we know that Trae still owns the Knicks. I'll be back with another episode of Topic Tackle coming soon. As always, stay solid, people.